Hi, BookTube, and welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. And the work week is finally over. So, as you guys know, I work at a grocery store, and whether it's food or toys or books or clothes, or accessories or even something as simple as stationery, November and December are basically the worst months to work in places that sell that stuff. Because then everybody's coming every day to buy stuff. So basically, we have to work almost every day these next 2 months. Or you at least have to ask way in advance for permission, and we have to actually talk to our department manager if we want that time off. Which, technically, when you want a little bit of vacation time, you do have to, but you don't actually have to ask the manager directly. You don't have to ask them to approve it, which that reminds me, I do need to check and make sure I got that approval for December. But you also, you only have to, you can ask 2 weeks off, 2 weeks in advance, and still get it. But this time you have to actually, way in advance. You have to make sure it's okay to take off. Because, this is retail. Everybody's there. Everybody shops there almost every day. So I worked every day this past week. Finally off. Surprisingly, I'm off Sunday. Not just Sunday, but Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then I go back on Thursday. But most of the time I work on Thursdays. Because, as I've said before, it's the day when seniors 16 and older get a discount, and then there's prime rib. They sell prime rib there, a whole prime rib meal for $9.99. So it's a really great price. So everybody comes there every Thursday night for the dinner, for the prime rib dinner. And then the older people 16 over, that's the day they do their biggest shopping. But I said, I'm surprised I got 4 days off, but it's nice. It's it's a relief to get those days off. So I want to talk to you guys about, of course, my reading, what is going on with it. So I finally finished Great Expectations, and it's such a relief to finish, not because it was a bad book or it was stressing me out or anything. It's just, I love the book. I had a great time, and I gave it 5 stars on Goodreads, but I always feel so good when a book that's taken me a long time to read, whether it's years to read or just weeks to read, it's a relief to be like, oh, I'm finally done with it. Even if I love the book, it's still, I can breathe again, I can relax, I can focus on books that I need to focus on. Which, in this case, means books like these, like Rebecca and Blood of Elves, because the Witcher show is coming, I believe it's on December 20th. I have to double check that. So then I can get back to focusing on this. I don't know if I'll get this book done, Blood of Elves and Time of Contempt, but that's my goal. Sophie, I know you're hungry, but you're not so starving that you can scourge around in my trash can. Okay, stop it. My dog, she is such a little scavenger. I love her, but she is a scavenger. She digs in my trash can. Because sometimes something that I can eat really quickly, and I don't have to worry about that. Sometimes I'll a piece of candy or something, or and if she smells that, she's gonna go digging through my trash can. She's hungry. It's almost dinner time, and there's something special we do with their meals now. So, and I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I need to do, so we're waiting for my dad to do it. But, Great Expectations is about a boy named Pip, who, let me show the book, actually. It's right here. I'm right in reach level. Oh, Ron! Ron fell. Dress robes, Ron fell. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So, I'm giving you a description of Great Expectations. So, it's about our main character, Pip. and he lives with his sister. His parents are dead, and he lives with his sister who's married to a blacksmith named Joe. And her sister is mean as heck. She is a horrible. She treats him like a servant. She acts like he's so ungrateful, and she's just such a mean person. She's mean to her husband. I mean, in fact, he calls his sister Miss Joe instead of by her name. We don't like. I don't even remember what her name is, but I know that Katie from Books and Things did say what her name was. That we do reveal her name. We do get her name, but I don't remember what it was. So, and Joe is probably the only person who's kind to him, the only friend he's got. I mean, there's also Biddy, who kind of becomes like a tutor to him. Okay, one second. Go on. See, Daddy. She's like a tutor to him. So those two are the only friends he's got. So 3 significant things happen to Pip in his life. First, when he's a little boy, just hanging out at the grave, his family's grave. There's actually a word for that, like your family graveyard, where all the people from your family are buried. But anyway, he's hanging out there and he runs into this escaped convict, and he's absolutely terrified. And the guy persuades him to steal some food, which he does from her sister because he's absolutely terrified of this guy. And a few years later, as an adult, I mean, not an adult, yeah, a few years later, as a young boy, like almost a teenager, he is taken by his uncle to this eccentric old lady named Miss Havisham, who is really weird. She's in a wedding dress. She's talking about when she's gonna die and stuff, and you find out that she was basically jilted by her fiance at her wedding. Her father and her stepbrother treated her poorly, or she felt like they abandoned her. And she, along with her adopted daughter Estella, use Pip as their entertainment. Like, Miss Havisham's goal is to get revenge on men, and she uses Estella to go after males, little boys like Pip, and like seduce them, trick them, get them to fall in love with them, and all that. And Pip, the naive idiot that he is enchanted by Estella because she's so beautiful. Even though she's mean to him, like his sister, he's immediately taken with her. And you have later in his adult life, as his teenage into his adult life, you have Miss Havisham whispering in his ear to love her, to love Estella, and to worship the ground that she walks on, and he listens to her. Of course, and my theory about that is because of a sister. That's the only example he knows of a female. So it's like, well, no, I mean there is Biddy, but his sister is she's a sister. So I feel like that's why he was susceptible and easily manipulated by Estella and Miss Havisham. But anyway, so that happens, and then a few years later, a lawyer shows up, Mr. Jaggers, who actually, coincidentally, is a lawyer for Miss Havisham. Tells him he has received great expectations, as in he has received he has a benefactor now and has received a lot of wealth. He's going to be raised as a proper gentleman. And he leaves his life behind and goes to London and becomes part of the high society. And that's basically the plot of this story. This was very well. At first started to remind me of Oliver Twist with Pip's story in the beginning. Now he was he had a sister like Oliver. He was kind of an orphan. He was an orphan in a way, but he had a sister, and then unlike Oliver, he receives these great expectations, which I guess is a term that they used back then. Or you're now expected to be part of high society or something. I don't know. This is like Dickens is the first time I've ever heard of this expression. I should look it up and like see if it's a legit expression they used back in like this time period. This was such a fascinating story, and Pip is such an interesting main character. I mean, I can see though why people that being part of the reason why people might not love this book, because Pip is an irritating character. He's becomes very arrogant and proud and is not and kind of selfish at times. He is most of the time he's not a very likable character. Although I'm someone who likes that in main characters. I like unlikable characters thrown into my list of favorite characters. Like, I love Scarlett O'Hara, and she is horrible. She is mean and selfish and treats her sisters like crap. You know, she basically stole one of her sister's bows, and Bo has a boyfriend. You know, old style version of your boyfriend is your beau. And I can understand why Pip might, frustrate. And Pip is a very frustrating character. But I also, like I said, I like unlikable characters. Because you see their progress and development, and it's so interesting to see that. Because, like, first of all, I guess it's partly to do with I try not to be that kind of person myself. I try to always be a good, kind person. I mean, I can be selfish, of course, we all can, but I try to be a very good person. So it's interesting to read a story about someone who is not. And that's actually why this book is one of the why I agree with Katie from Books and Things that this is an easier book to read and good starting point for Dickens. Now, I haven't read a lot of Dickens, but I've read the little bit I've read. I know his writing style. I have begun to know his writing style pretty well. It is a very difficult writing style. It's very intricate. The plots are very interwoven. There's lots of threads going on, and they're very detail oriented. I recommended into Terry, for instance, but sometimes I wonder she might never get into his books because the writing is challenging. It's not easy to read. I mean, yes? Whatever you wanna. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my dad was asking me about dinner. But anyway. But yeah, his writing style is a little more challenging to get into, and Terry's someone who reads a lot of romance novels. She's read Thomas Harris, the guy who wrote the Hannibal series, and so that she's used to modern writing, so she doesn't read a lot of classics. Although, I know because we've done a few buddy reads of classics. Like, we both read Jane Eyre together, although she took a lot longer than I did to read that one. And the writing styles and the Bronte sisters' writing style is, of course, a little different, but there is a similarity. There's a difference between modern and writers like Bronte and Dickens. Like, you can't no, they are very different, but there are similarities, like, at the same time. And then she's read Jane Austen and stuff like that, but she doesn't read a lot of it, so I don't know if she's actually ever going to be interested, but I did recommend that if she ever want to start with Dickens, that this is a good place to start, because this particular book is one of his books that's written in first person, and I don't like first person in modern narratives, but I like first person when it's historical or like an older book. I'm trying to remember to refer to as older because I watched a video recently on classics because I'm always obsessed with watching videos on how to read classics and the best classics to read and all that. And one of the booktubers that I watched, I'm assuming he's a booktuber because there are some people talking about books that are just actually YouTubers and not booktubers. But she had talked about that she doesn't like to refer to these books as classics. She rather refers to them as older books. And I'm sure she explained why. Like, she didn't like the term classic and preferred the term older. And, like, it was just that it's just an older, like, I guess because there is a weight to when a book is labeled a classic. And there's this reputation that develops and people are apprehensive to read it, or they'll assume that it's boring because it's a book you might read for class a book that you read for school tends to develop a reputation of, I don't want to read that. It's so boring. Because, teachers will make you study these books in and out, every little detail. I remember there's actually a meme out there that, it has something along the lines of, the curtains are blue because the author is reflecting on their depressive state and blah, blah, blah. And then, what the author is actually saying is, I just think the color blue, I decided to make the curtains blue. And which I think is it's a really cute and really funny meme out there. I have to look for that one at some point. I hope to come across it one day, but anyway. I also really loved Miss Havisham and Estella's characters. They were also very fascinating characters. They are just mean, cold-hearted people, and they're Estella is such a brat. But there are brief glimmers, you can tell, because she tries to warn Pip that she's a selfish person, and he needs to give his heart to someone else. But of course, he's been seduced and brainwashed to love Estella, and I think love is something that doesn't go away. Unless you fall in love with someone else, I don't think Pip will ever love anybody the way he loved Estella until it happens, until he least expects it. He might think, I'll never love anyone like I love her, but he doesn't know for sure. Who knows? Maybe someone will come along and sweep him off his feet. Someone who'll fall in love like he did with Estella. I hope Estella's not his type, because he deserves better. He may be arrogant and a jerk at times, but he still has a good heart, and he's still very sweet, but it isn't, now this is a tiny bit of a spoiler, but it's interesting that towards halfway through the book, there's a scene, where Estella has found a guy that she wants to marry, and Pip stops by the house to talk her out of marrying that guy, because he doesn't like that guy is a jerk, and he thinks that Estella deserves better. And so he stops by and he hears the two of them arguing, Estella and Miss Havisham arguing, and and Estella basically points out to Miss Havisham, you made me this way. I don't care about you because you made me not care about you. Not, you shaped me to be someone that doesn't care about anyone but myself. So it kind of backfired on Miss Havisham. I think a good way to describe her is, I was thinking about the quote from the movie, not the book. I don't know if it's in the book or not, but in the movie, Coraline, which, in case you don't know, is a Neil game about a little girl who discovers, when her family moves into a new house, she discovers a secret door to another world that's similar to her own, and is a world created by a witch who wants to claim her as her own, and there's this whole thing about to be part of this world, we got so buttons in your eyes, and it's really creepy, and so when Coraline has figured all this out and what's going on, and that the witch this other mother is actually a witch and all that, she's talking to the talking cat, and Coraline's asking why is she the way she is, what does she want? And the cat says, I think she wants somebody to love. And that, I feel like that sums up Miss Havisham. She wants to be loved, and so she adopted Estella and shaped her to be, her devoted daughter and child, but then she shaped her to be just as mean and cold-hearted as her, which means she doesn't even love Miss Havisham. So I found that very interesting, and like I said, I believe there's brief glimmers that Estella does have a bit of a heart, that she isn't entirely heartless, that she doesn't entirely not care about anyone. I think she does in a small way, care about Pip. No, I don't. I'm not saying, because I was watching Katie's video where she was talking about there was one movie made of this book. She didn't like the direction it went because she felt like it was inaccurate to portrayal of Estella. It's like, no, Estella does not secretly love Pip or anything. That's the reason why she's mean to him. But I'm not saying that she does. I'm not saying that's what I believe, because I don't. But I do believe there's a glimmer of that she does care about, like, she at least respects, or at least pities him. She feels sorry for him. That's a better word. Like, she pities him in a way. And that's why I feel like she tries to warn him and is like, I'm not, you don't want to love me. I don't love you. I never will love you. I don't care about you. I also, let's see, and Joe, I love Joe. He's such a sweetie. He really cares about Pip. And even when Pip treats him awfully and ignores him, like essentially abandons him, he's still loyal to Pip. He comes back and helps Pip when Pip almost gets really sick, and and I don't know if he almost dies or if he just gets really sick. But Joe comes and is there for him, and he's always so, like, he believes the best ever. Even his wife, who is such a mean person, such a heartless, mean person who debates him and berates him and Pip all the time, and he just is like, oh, she's actually a really good person. He's such a sweetheart. He still believes that there are good people, that people are good deep down, and that there is goodness in them, and he's so loyal to, it's just so, I want to hug Joe. I would love to be his sister, or his wife, or marry the guy, or, he's such a good person. He deserves the best, even more so than Pip. I liked Herbert Pocket, the new friend that Pip makes in the Society of the Rich. He's also such a nice guy and friendly and helpful. He's loyal to Pip and he tries to help him out, but he's also a nice guy. He's not snobby or arrogant. He's just a nice, down-to-earth guy that tries to help Pip. And then let's see. I'm trying to think. The only characters that I didn't like at all were the sister. I couldn't stand her. I'm so, I wanted to smack her. I think she's a selfish, horrible person. Pip may be arrogant and can be a selfish prick sometimes, but I just hated her. And then I hated his uncle. And it's interesting that the book talks about the uncle, all of a sudden, Uncle Pumblechook, I don't know if I'm saying his name right. Dickens always has some really interesting names for his characters, very eccentric sounding names. So, like, he treats Pip horribly at first, but when Pip shows up and is wealthy and everything, he's also, like, nice to Pip. He wants to help him out. He's doing things for him. It's like, really? Like, so, the only reason you're being nice to Pip is because he's, now he's got the money. It's like, you don't really care about it. You know that he has money. He has status now. And I can stand him, and then he's all, like, as soon as Pip loses everything, he's all condescending, talks down to Pip again, thinks you're worthless, and I can't, I was cool with everybody else. I wasn't sure if to trust Mr. Jagger. I still don't know, even by the end of it, I still don't know if I want to trust Mr. Jagger. I mean, I know lawyers have that reputation of being slimy bastards, but in the fictional world, although, I have an uncle who's a lawyer and now a judge, so it's a little bit, but, I don't know what to think of him. I liked Wemmick. I think that's how you say it. I liked him. He was a nice guy. I liked his character. And I also found it funny that he has his office personality, his professionalism, but then he becomes your best friend in a genuine way, not just a pretender kind of way, like, not like Uncle Pumblechook. Like, his kindness and friendship is genuine, like, it's just, when he's in the office, he tries to seem like a professional and a businessman, and, but once he's not at work, and he's hanging out at the at Woolworths, which is I think that's their hangout bar, their pub or whatever. He's once again, on your side. He's cool, and again, like I said, it's not like a shady thing or anything. It's just I feel like he feels like he has to put two personas, like the business one, the man who's focused on being professional and giving professional advice, but then once he's off work, which I think people do. I mean, when you're at work, you put on your, you are professional. You're a business minded. You're a serious person. You're like for instance, in retail, there's customers that can be annoying and difficult, but you maintain the mentality of let me help you, and you're always right, and I'm gonna be kind to you and kill you with kindness, even if you're a jerk to me, and and even if you end up not being actually right, you put on professionalism, and you try to ignore the fact if you don't like how they're being towards you. Let's see, what else can I say? Well, and of course, not like I said, not only is the writing style a little more challenging, Dickens' writing style, but it's still slow moving, like all his books. His books are very slow moving. The good news is, as I was saying, the first person point of view is very helpful because you only have Pip's story. You only have the plot that's Pip's. I mean, there's still a little bit of that plots that you at first think have nothing to do with it. Not like, but then it's revealed that they have everything to do with Pip's story. But with this, it's a little easier because it's in first person. You only are staying with Pip. Everything's from his perspective. And in this case, I think it helps. Now, I think in certain situations, like one of the books I want to talk about is Harry Potter, one of the book series I'm going to talk about. And in that one, there's so much I feel like you miss out on because you are only from Harry's perspective. In Jane Eyre, I kind of feel that way a little bit too because there's Rochester is even more engaging than Jane as a character, and especially because he's such a screwed up character. And I always want to know more about his character and his perspective on matters. Which is why I actually, back when I was still watching Once Upon a Time, I was one of the people who wrote fanfiction, and the first writing I ever did was I wrote Rumpel and Belle's diaries in a Facebook group I was in. And because I've always been fascinated that everyone is all, you pick a character and everything, that you get their perspective, and a lot of times it felt like there were more girl perspectives than guys, especially when it comes to stories like The Beauty and the Beast. I'm always more fascinated with the male characters because a lot of times they're so closed off emotionally and so distant and quiet and thoughtful and reserved, unless they're one of those guys who's more charming and playful and flirtatious and all that, and that's putting it nicely sometimes. Like the character, the Rochester, or the Beast, or Rumpel characters, or or the Captain from Sound of Music, those characters are so reserved and quiet, you're kind of curious, what are they thinking, and just like the heroine of the story, and the woman in the story, she's wondering, okay, what is this guy thinking? She's drawn to him because he's so mysterious, and she's fascinated by him. You don't get that element that much in this one, which it makes it so in this case, all first person narrative and only getting Pip's perspective was okay for me. Like I said, though, I can understand why he's an annoying character, so that his perspective might not be as appealing because he's an irritating character. But I loved it. So it was, such a great book, so enjoyable. I don't know what else to say. I hope I'm getting better at these reviews. I always worry about these. I was thinking about this new person that's just subscribed to me that I subscribed to her not that long ago, and I love her videos. I finally commented on one of her videos, and she's actually one of those people that I love her video on classics and how to read them, and I'm obsessed with that. I love looking up those kinds of videos, which I don't know why. I know it's weird, but I just like doing that, even though I've seen the video millions of times. I just feel like, oh, maybe I'll get something new from it, or maybe there's new videos out there that are about classics. But anyway, she was talking about, I told her I'm participating in Victober, and she was like, oh, I can't wait to see if you did a review on what you read for Victober, let me know, and I want to know what you thought about Wuthering Heights, and I felt so bad, because I felt like my review of Wuthering Heights wasn't that great. I mean, I did chat about it a lot, but I feel like it's not as, I feel like my particular reviews are not as, like, what's the word, not as, articulate or like detailed, my reviews. I just feel like they're not as good. But anyway, so I'm hoping that I'm getting better at them because I'm trying to work on it and really think about things about that I don't like and that I do like. But again, I'm an easy to please person, and I know some people say, "Oh, that's not a bad thing," but it's like you don't have limits. You're not critical enough, and there's things that deserve criticism, and there's things that I feel like they don't deserve criticism from me, but then everyone talks about how bad they are, or clearly talks about them, like Disney, for instance. Like I watched Lindsay Ellis's video on Disney, and they were trying too hard to be woke, and they're not really woke anymore, and they're not actually woke, or they're trying too hard to say, oh, we're woke, we're aware. That's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother bag of worms, and a whole can of worms that I don't want to be opening right now. I just mentioning it because that's one of those times where it's like, what's now another thing that's really cool about this edition is apparently, according to Dickens' editor, at the last minute, Dickens changed the ending of Great Expectations. So this one has the original ending. And really, the difference, there's not a lot, there's not a huge difference, in my opinion, but there is a difference with the endings. But I don't understand, what I would love to know is why. I would love to ask, like, I wonder if Katie from Books and Things knows about that. I'll have to message her at some point and ask her, and does she know that the ending was changed at the last minute? But I thought that was kind of interesting, and this one has that particular ending in it, as well as the it has the current, but right after it has the original ending. Okay, so that's what's going on. So that's my thoughts on Great Expectations. I just finally start reading. Rebecca, we are finally got to Manderley. Rebecca and Maxim de Winter have finally gotten married, and they are finally at Manderley. We finally met Miss Danvers, and the woman is creepy, and she's quietly, silently judging our main character, and making her very uncomfortable. I don't know what to make of her. I mean, I know there's something sinister about the woman. Not just from what I've read so far, but also from the back description, they imply that she's sinister, and I still don't know how it's gonna turn out. Like, because obviously there's gonna be a twist or something at the end. So I don't know. I'm just gonna keep going. But like I said, we finally got into the house, and not Rebecca. We don't know our main character's name. Rebecca is the shadow that looms over our main character, but. Our main character, she is a little disappointed. She's nervous and she's disappointed, and she's going there because things are not what she expected. And I wanted to slap Miss Van Hopper because she was all like basically telling when they went to go tell when Maxim went to go tell Miss Van Hopper that she was losing her companion to they were gonna get married. Miss Van Hopper, when she's talking to our main character, is like, well, then, the only reason he's gonna marry you is because, he doesn't really love you. He's just bored. He's just lonely, and, he just, like, she implied that he didn't really care. Now, I don't know if she's right or not, but I still want to, whether she's right or not, I want to stop the one because it's like, sorry, I worry that where then it's not gonna. I try to remember just in case not to say those curse words. So that's why I know that I've said it casually before, but sometimes I worry that I'm gonna get in trouble in BookTube for saying those words, if you know. But anyway, she's such a mean person, and she makes our main character feel so bad about herself. I mean, that's partly why our main character is so insecure and is so naive and impressionable, and is, you know, why she's so desperate, and, you know, and wants Maxim to win her, because she has people like Miss Van Hopper make her feel so bad about herself, and it's like, I mean, she's like, and I wonder if Miss Van Hopper was jealous that our main character won over the heart of Maxim, and maybe she was mad because, okay, now she gets to go to Manderley, and he's gonna pay attention to her and everything, so I feel like maybe she wanted to ruin the fact that she's marrying him and escaping her, Miss Van Hopper, and ruining her moment of happiness by saying, oh, well, he doesn't really love you. You know, he just wants to marry you just because he needs a wife. You know, it's like, why do you have to be like that? Why do you have to make this girl was willing to work for you, took on a job for you, and you just keep putting her down, and, you know, even if she turns out to be right, and Maxim, and if he turns out to be dangerous and not a good guy, at least she got away from Miss Van Hopper. It makes her feel bad about herself. Of course, maybe this situation will be a lot worse. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, but, she's already starting to feel the shadow of Rebecca looming over her, because, you know, and Miss Danvers is like, I was here since Miss Rebecca was a young bride, and she's already making our main character feel like, you're never gonna live up to Rebecca's standards, you're never gonna be as good as her, like, in small ways. Like, Maxim had sent a message to change the rooms, that they decide they're sleeping on the other wing, a different wing, because he believes that our main character would prefer the other wing over the one he originally was sleeping in. And our main character is getting the impression from Miss Danvers that this wing of the house is unworthy. It's less than the other wing of the house, which I'm guessing is because Rebecca loved the wing that they were in, and it's her area, so it's like, if this new American girl is there, it's not anything special, because originally it was the guest rooms. It's like, she's no better than Miss Van Hopper, and it's like, oh, okay, sorry guys, I don't know why I was, like, out of frame, but, I mean, I know why, but I don't know why I was doing that. I guess laying on the arm of the chair. But, okay, that's better. So, I feel so bad for our main character, because everyone is constantly feeling sorry for her, and, like, saying, oh, you'll never be good enough, or, you know, and then, like, and then Maxim is not really helping matters. He's, you know, yeah, he's affectionate towards her, and is nicer to her, probably respects her a little bit better, but he's not really putting in a lot of effort, which really is, you know, and that's, I think, what's going to lead to her being, like, so obsessed with Rebecca, that's when I've heard, that she becomes obsessed with Rebecca just as much as everybody else. So yeah, like I said, they're at Manderley. Miss Danvers already giving her a negative impression, making her feel like she can't compete with Rebecca, she's not gonna be good enough. And she's, like I said, disappointed by Manderley a little bit. Okay, so I also am, let me get to the nonfiction that I'm reading. I'm still reading this one. I do intend to get to, but I don't know. I might not get to the Walt Disney one until the last week, but the problem is that when Thanksgiving comes around, everybody's, my sister and her friend from college and their families are going to be here, so there's going to be lots of distractions because my little nephews are going to be here and I love them so much. I got to see them. My mom is visiting them for the weekend because my brother-in-law is going out of town for a work thing, and so my mom's helping my sister babysit. And the younger one, Daniel's going through potty training. He's so cute, so pitiful, adorable. He's going through potty training. And I know that poor Harrison, his older brother, struggled so much with the potty training thing. And Daniel, all the good news is he doesn't seem to be struggling as much as Harrison did. But they're so cute. I love those two. I can't wait to see them towards around Thanksgiving. But I think it's two more weeks, and then I'll see them again. But anyway, so I'm on mile 4, I think, 4 or 5. There's so much going on, and you learn so much. It's just, I'm on aisle 4, so I'll be going to mile 5. I keep saying aisle, mile. I'm on mile 4. And again, it's so interesting to learn about New York as it developed. And learning about all these buildings. Like, I just read the part about the Flatiron Building, which is that building in the middle that's kind of narrow. It's narrowly built, which I think is really interesting and cool to read about. And how people didn't like it at first, and I feel like they thought it was a bit of an eyesore and weird, and wouldn't be successful. And they talked about how there was a lot of wind because the way the building was made caused a lot of wind on that street, and women's skirts would be flying up, and men would check them out, and it was like the magistrate was all like, this one particular guy that got in trouble. The magistrate told him, well, you can look for like a second, but just don't get caught looking longer than that. And then basically all these guys get this in their heads, like, oh, well, as long as we don't get caught and we look for a second, only for a second, then it's all good. We can check out girls' underwear. We also learned about all the immigrants who didn't get along well, because there's so many immigrants. This is where Ellis Island is in New York. And there was all these immigrants at war with each other, and we learn about all the shopping, and it's so funny. I just, the other day, I read this part about the shopping, and when shopping for women was starting to develop and stuff, and all these great stores, and I guess Lord & Taylor is a pretty old store and has been around since the 1800s. And men did not like that women were leaving the house, and they don't know what the women were doing. They did not know, they did not trust women, and they were nervous about what they were doing, like disappearing in all these big stores. So people acted like it was sinful and was the devil's work to shopping. It's like, oh my God, people actually thought shopping was a sin. The only sinful thing about it is you're spending a lot of money. You're spending a lot of your money, and that's not that has nothing to do with the devil. That just is being lacking common sense and not being careful with your money, or trying to balance rewarding yourself, but trying to balance, okay, don't reward myself too much and spend all my money. It's just so funny that at one time it was seen as sinful because men did not like that women were going out and shopping and disappearing at stores. I found that hilarious. That's how a lot of people saw shopping as sinful, as bad, and try to villainize it. And then another thing that I found incredibly interesting was I think it was Central Park where this was, where it got there was this guy who set up these chairs and figured he could charge people to sit in them, and especially the people that didn't have were desperate to sit down in the shade. And these chairs were set up in the shade because it was so hot that summer. And these people, the not so wealthy people, the poor people that weren't making a lot of money, would to sit and try to sit in these chairs. But then the police were like, you need to pay. You need to give us a nickel to sit in these chairs. And there were people that put up a fight. We're like, no, I'm not paying for this. I should be allowed to sit in this chair if I want to. This is a free space. We should be able to sit where we want to sit in the shade, because people are dying because it's so hot and they're getting overheated. And it's not fair to punish us and be like, you have to, if we don't have them, we don't have the nickel, because it's like a nickel, to sit in these chairs, and people were protesting. It became this big thing, and there was this guy that was trying to use it to make money off of it, but the people weren't cooperating. They were protesting. There were riots. In fact, there was a lot of rioting going on in New York City at one time, and protesting. People got really violent, and the police, in turn, would get violent with them. And there would be, which it kind of made me think of what's going on, where people are, talking about police brutality in our society and how it's still going on today. It made me think of that. But that's not connected to the chair thing. I mean, that was still going on with the chair thing, but that was part of a different thing that was going on in New York at the time. But there are so many interesting things, and I'm reading a little bit about the gas lamp, how when gas lamps started, and of course it talks about P.T. Barnum. And which I already knew that P.T. Barnum was not, the way Hugh Jackman portrays him in the musical is not who he is in real life. He's not, and he doesn't even look like, he's not even, as attractive as Hugh Jackman is. In fact, I think he was kind of overweight, like a bigger guy. He wasn't fat. And, I think, I have to look at, let's see if I can find the picture. Let me see if I can find it. Sounds like I'm going to be having to eat. Okay, I don't know what chapter it's on. I don't remember what chapter. But, this is the one where I did attempt to underline, at least, and mark up the book. But I haven't followed through with it since, because I'm reading it in bed, I'm reading it here. But P.T. Barnum was not, he did not look anything like, but I knew, and first of all, I know that Hollywood takes liberties oftentimes, sometimes in big ways, and sometimes only in small ways. Like, Sound of Music is based on an actual family, the Von Trapp family, and they took liberties with that. Like, the characters of the Captain Maria are opposites. Like, she's the stern one, the disciplinarian, and the and he's the one who's fun and jovial and stuff. But they changed it, which I don't know. I guess it translated better. Like, they thought it would be better to have her be the one who's fun and jovial, and introduce them to music and all, brings music into their lives and all that. Okay, it's gonna take me too long to find it. I don't know what page, but there is the picture of him. And I believe he also has a handlebar mustache or something, or some kind of mustache. But yeah, and they talking about how he was really sleazy and very business oriented. He was a businessman in the end, and he didn't really, they really fluff it up in the musical, which I already knew that. I was already warned. I was told. I remember watching a video where someone was like that they didn't like how they said that the musical is not very accurate to who P.T. Barnum is in real life. Which, fine. I'm used to that. That's what Hollywood takes liberties all the time. And it's a musical. So I feel like sometimes you can make exceptions and tolerate it. Like, if it's just people that would watch it. As long as you do your research or are aware that, no, this is not accurate. Of course, it's also a musical, so. But, it's just, there's so much interesting information about Broadway, how it was before, and the way people thought before. This is Deckled Edges, which I really like. I'm one of those people who likes the Deckled Edges. I know a lot of people, not everybody likes them, but I like them. Which I guess, yeah, fits this, because even though it's not a story, it's still, okay, 1 second. Come on. It's still timelining the history of New York from back in the 1800s or during the American Revolution to today. So, yeah, it makes sense that they would for the purpose of the book design to have deckled edges. But it's so interesting to read about New York, back like how it developed, and the theater and everything, how the theater developed and all that. Speaking of nonfiction, I just found out there is a sequel that Julie Andrews did write a sequel to Home, the memoir of her early. She wrote another memoir of her Hollywood years, which I'm so excited. And I immediately put it on the Amazon wish list because even if I don't get it for Christmas, I could get it for my birthday, unless I come across it at like Books A Million or something. That'd be awesome if I did, but this is a small Books A Million. I mean, I didn't even come across the first book. I saw that one at Barnes & Noble on, I think, Fayetteville. Okay, so last but not least, I'm going to talk about, and I will probably read these books along with some of my library books. I don't know which of my library books I'm going to read next, but because I'm still reading Edith Wharton's this collection. I'm still trying to slowly make my way through summer. But, I mean, the problem is I haven't had a day off. I did have a day off, like, last weekend, but I've been working all week, so the next 3 days, I'm gonna also read a little bit more of this as well. Read Summer, finish reading Summer. And then there's History of Magic, The Buccaneers, which is also one of her Edith Wharton's novels. And short novels by Tolstoy. I have a collection of that, and then I still have my Dickens collection, short stories or novels. I don't know which it is. I think it's short stories. And I guess I also have to. I finally started reading the 7th book of Harry Potter, but I will get to that in a minute. So I read a little bit more Blood of Elves, and I didn't read a lot, so not a lot happened. I didn't read a lot happening. Basically, Triss, the other sorceress that is accompanying them, is she has gotten, like, I can't remember what happened to her. She got sick, like she got wounded or something, and she is to come in right now. They are escorting her, trying to get her escorting her somewhere, and they were actually picked up by a character that was introduced in Sword of Destiny, Yarpen, he was a dwarf, and it's him and some other dwarves, and they are helping escort, and they actually had asked Geralt to join the king's army, Henselt, but he is trying to remain neutral. He's like, I'm not joining this guy's army, I'm not going to be part of this. And Suri, who overheard this conversation, is asking Yarpen about it. So, like I said, not a lot, but like I said, my goal is to get this one finished, and then try to get to the other one, The Time of Contempt. I at least want to get the first 2 books read. And then the last book I'm going to mention that don't even think about it. I started reading finally started my reread of the 7th Harry Potter book, the final book in the series. And then I think next year, my plan, I've added this to my goals, that I want to do what Murphy Napier is doing, which is read a book every month and do a review on the book. But I think her reviews are probably going to be better than mine. But anyway, so I'm reading, but I have to finish the 7th book for my second reread first. Okay, so I'm basically at this point, and I just kind of jumped back into it because I had read the first 3 chapters already months ago, and so I was going to go back, but I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go back and, continue rereading it, because I know what happens. I remember, not every single detail, but I remember the basic, but it's not like I would be lost or confused, and this is a new book for me, so, I am at the part, Harry is now was at the Burrow in Fleur and Bill's wedding he's been part of. Unfortunately, he has to remain disguised as a cousin. And Miss Weasley she knows there's a possibility, she has heard that the boys might not be going back. Harry and Ron and Hermione are not going back to Hogwarts, and they're looking for Horcruxes. She's kind of fishing around, trying to find out if that's true, and Harry admits that it is, and she doesn't want them to go. Because she cares, and she doesn't like that they're not going back to school. And the thing about Miss Weasley is she's so nurturing and caring, cares about these boys, cares about Harry and her son and Hermione, and she wants to shelter them and protect them. And is like, it's not your responsibility. Why does Dumbledore have to make you take care of Voldemort and all that? And it's like, on the one hand, it comes from a place that she loves them. She loves Harry as much as she loves Ron, and she loves Hermione, and she cares about them and wants to protect them and everything. And it's understandable. She's a mother, and she loves Harry and Hermione as much as she loves her own son. But then at the same time, it's like, no, they have to do this. You can't protect them. They're not children anymore. They have to do this. It's Harry's responsibility, whether you like it or not. Which I think it's also very frustrating for Harry, because everyone's trying to protect him, and he's also he's a bit of a martyr. He's like, I'm going to put you guys in danger. I need to go. And he's like telling his friends, he's trying to persuade his friends not to want to come with him. They're like, no, you guys, this is dangerous. I need to do this on my own. Maybe it's better if you guys stay. But Hermione and Ron are like, no, insisting they go because they have been prepared for this. They are willing to make the sacrifice because they care about Harry and they want to fight and defeat Lord Voldemort. So they have prepared already, and even though Harry is like, maybe you guys shouldn't do this, they have made it clear, no, we're coming with you, we are helping you do this, we're helping you defeat this monster once and for all. We also have one of my favorite moments, a Ginny and Harry moment, and why I love those two is this cute moment that we don't get in the movie. We're at the wedding. Actually, we do kind of get in the movie. It's a little different, though. It's on Harry's birthday, and Ginny is like, Harry, come here, and I got a birthday present. And she eventually, like, kisses him. She's the one that kissed him, and he does kiss back, because, I mean, I feel like, unless you're not gonna not kiss back unless you don't feel the same way about that person. It's so cute, and of course, Ron comes in and interrupts everything, and he, of course, is mad at Harry because he's like, you broke up with her, and now you're snugging her or whatever. Which is it's funny because it's like, first of all, Ginny kissed him, but at the same time, he's her older brother, so you can understand he protects her, he cares about her, wants to protect her, because even though Harry's his best friend, he's still, it's like, don't mess with my sister. In fact, in Half-Blood Prince, he was like, when he found out that they were a couple, he did not like that. He was like, he did not want them to date. He was not comfortable with it, and he was like, why are you dating my sister? Which, yeah, I feel like that's a common reaction between siblings, that for whether it's because you want to protect them or you don't want to see your best friend get hurt by your sibling. I think a lot of siblings are going to be like not comfortable with their best friend dating one of their friends dating their sibling. It just puts them in an awkward position, because what if it doesn't work out between the two of you? And the last thing I read was they've left the wedding because the wedding was attacked by Death Eaters, and so sad Matt Moody died, and Hedwig died. I mean, because I knew it was coming, it didn't make me. I didn't cry, but it was still very hard. It's like, why? Why did she have to kill? Which I did appreciate, though, that when she killed, because Hedwig, as heartbreaking as it is, he's still just Harry's pet at the end of the day. So as heartbreaking as it is, I'm glad that she was brave enough to kill off another beloved character that was a human, not just, I'm going to kill off the pet. Because, I don't like it when authors just kill off a character that may be important to our main characters, but it's not, they haven't become important to the audience. Now, granted, Hedwig was important to us. We cared about Hedwig too. But yeah, the example I can think of is in Wings and Rowan, Sarah J. Maas. She killed off the dad. But we barely spent any time with him. He was in the first book, and then that was it. He was like barely in the rest of the story. It's like he was in the first book, but then he's no longer in it until Wings and Ruin. He's not in Court of Mist and Fury, and he's only in the second half of Wings and Ruin. Like at the end, and it's like, yeah, you kill off this character, but everyone else lives miraculously. I mean, yeah, I didn't want characters like Rhysand to die or anything like that, but at the same time, it's like I feel like it's cheap to just. We can kill off the dad, kill off the Freya and her sister's dad, because he's important to them and it will break their hearts because they barely had time to really get to know him, and in the end of the book he finally actually does something for him, and so he sacrifices himself to protect them, and so it made them realize their dad wasn't such a dumbass after all. But then it's like, we don't care, the audience doesn't care about him. But, so, I do appreciate that J.K. Rowling killed off Mad-Eye Moody after she killed off Hedwig. Because Mad-Eye Moody is someone, there's a bigger impact. Like, Hedwig had a small impact, but Mad-Eye Moody has an even bigger impact that he gets killed. Like, because he's someone that we as the audience and the characters all assume that he would survive. He was a survivor, so it was a shock when his character is killed off. It's like, and it happened so abruptly. Like, we didn't... it just happened, and we never saw it happen because, of course, the book is in Harry's perspective the whole time. So we don't see Mad-Eye Moody's death, which I thought was interesting. But anyway, so the Death Eaters show up, and Harry and Hermione and Ron are forced to flee at the last minute. I get why they didn't include, like, the whole Harry being the cousin or whatever, and it would have been a waste of money to have another actor all of a sudden, like, be there. And, yeah, you could just say that to us, the audience, we know it's really Harry and his friends and stuff, but to everyone else at the party, they see him as the cousin, so it's like, and I guess, yeah, it would be a little silly to, although Charmed did it, there was a couple episodes, but I guess they would have more money, I don't know. But, Charmed did it when you see just the other actor in the mirror, or when the other person is interacting with them, you'll see a brief glimpse of what the fake person looks like. Hey, Rascal. But, anyway, I'm getting off topic here. So, it also was very interesting. I always thought it was interesting and quite surprising. I don't remember what's revealed, but Harry is interacting with Elphias Doge, and Elphias praising Dumbledore and everything, but Aunt Muriel is talking about Dumbledore is not such a great guy, he's not such a saint. And I don't remember, because we do kind of get the real story, the truth, when they eventually meet Aberforth, but it's, like, interesting that, hi, Rascal. There's no, like, you realize in this book that Dumbledore is not a saint. He's kind of knocked off his pedestal a little bit. And I think a lot of the fans were a little come to realize that Dumbledore is not such a great guy after all. Especially by this book, and what's revealed in this book about him. The next chapter is Kreacher's Tale. We're going to learn about Kreacher, and it's interesting. Another thing that was interesting is, watching Murphy Neighbors' review of A Prisoner of Azkaban, and looking back, I gotta admit, I can see why people like my friend Catherine, for instance, do not like Sirius Black. And hate him, in fact, I think. I think it's as strong as that. I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe I'm putting words in her mouth. But, why they don't like him. Because he's a douche. He puts, in the third book, he put Snape's life in danger. The guy could have died. And he's very reckless, and he doesn't really, he wants to project James onto Harry, and I feel like that's a little unfair, and it's, like, because, of course Harry's gonna be like, of course he wants to put, he's gonna actually be like, oh, cool, I remind you I remind you of my dad, and he's gonna be proud. He's gonna like, he's vulnerable to easily be, he's susceptible to that, and wanting to live up to that name, you know. And Sirius is just kind of like, he's not always that nice. He's a very dark character. But I haven't, you know, unfortunately he's not in this book. He's just mentioned, but yeah, I'm just, oh, Rascal! Sorry, my dog just fell out of my Papasan chair. Oh, poor boy, he's trying to jump in and he fell off. Okay, I'll get you in a minute. He's so pitiful. But yeah, I was just thinking about it because even though he's like just mentioned throughout the book and Harry's thinking about him and stuff, you know, I just watched Murphy Napier's review of her book, and she's talking about in, you know, her what doesn't make sense in the book. She does first she does a gush review because I mean we all love the series. Most of us love the series. Most of us who grew up with it love it. But then she also does. But she knows it's flawed. It's not perfect. It has a lot of flaws in it, and you know, and I'm aware of that too. Like, you know, you can definitely point out the flaws, and there's a lot of things you can point out about this book that is this series. But she also does videos where there are the aspects of the plot that don't make sense to her. Things that aren't necessarily plot holes, but they just like, why? Why is it like this? Or why couldn't we do this? Or this doesn't make any sense. Kind of video, basically, which it's very interesting. So, but yeah, I like these videos, and I like those videos and stuff. But yeah, it's so cool to come back to this world, and how easy it is to slip back in this world once you start reading it. You know, it's easy to once again get familiar with it, and I don't notice the length of the chapters as much as I do with adult books. It's not that I'm not enjoying adult books. I love adult books, and really, I know the stories have just as much author as a YA book, but those books are a little slower sometimes, and unless, of course, depending on the genre, some adult genres can be a little faster, like thrillers, and you know, and some fantasy. But I mean, the problem with fantasy, even if it can seem fast, there's still so much that an author puts in a fantasy book, whether it's a YA book or an adult book. But unless it's like not like an epic fantasy, you know. But which let's face it, most are. But I find it's like faster to get through a Harry Potter book than like a Stephen King book, for instance. I mean, I love Stephen King, but anyway, yeah. So I'm already on chapter 10. Of course, to be fair in this case, I already read the first 3 chapters months ago, and I just started from where I left off. But anyway, I'm gonna read a little bit of that. But my main focus is I want to read Blood of Elves, Rebecca 2. I want to read a little bit more of that, and then the Broadway book. I'm gonna read, but I do need to start one of my library books and get past the Edith Wharton book. It's just taking me a long time. But I do want to finish it because I don't want this to be one of those books that I end up sending back to the library because it's just taking too long. Because even if I'm enjoying, and that does not mean I'm not enjoying the non-engage with the book. It's just sometimes I lose a little patience because I always say that I blame YA for that because YA is so much more fast-paced. Not all YA, but a lot of the YA I have read is much more fast-paced. The chapters aren't as long and not as detail-oriented, and they don't drag as much. I mean, but maybe that's because I read YA fantasy. But anyway, so I have taken books back that, even though I was enjoying them at the same time, like, okay, I need to take a break from this book. Like, the Joe Hill book, Nosferatu, NOSA42, or A42. I guess I can't say because I know what the name of the book is a license plate that refers to the famous vampire that was the vampire movie that was made in the 20s. But I can't say that vampire's name. And essentially, like, the character is like a vampire. You know, I don't know if he's supposed to actually be, or he just admires the vampire or whatever. But anyway, but yeah, I did like it. It was just taking so long to read it, and it was a library book. It's really all about the fact that it's a library book. So I feel like, okay, I gotta eventually turn this book in, but I'm taking forever to read it. And that's why sometimes I end up buying these books. Like, I don't like reading getting super long books at the library. So anyway, that's what's going on my reading. I'm so glad I'm finally off. These next 4 days will be nice. Although there is always still a possibility that they might call me. So hopefully that won't happen. But tomorrow I'm just gonna chill at home, watch TV, read, do some reading, and just chill. I don't know if my dad's gonna have anything for us to like run errands or something, because I might accompany him, but his idea of errands are like going to Lowe's Hardware or something. But anyway, so that is what is currently going on with my reading. We'd love to hear what's going on with your reading. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not already subscribed. And ignore the dog, although he's very cute and hard to ignore. And I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to you later. Alright, bye!